Here's some news and information that you definitely need to know. Public broadcasting is actually on the chopping block, guys. And here's how the Senate's late night vote is actually sideswiping PBS, NPR, and most American voters. We'll be right back. So let's talk about what happened. At 1:12 a.m. yesterday, the U.S. Senate approved the Recissions Act of 2025, and that's H.R. 4, on a narrow 51-48 vote. We talked about this yesterday. The package claws back roughly $1.1 billion previously appropriated for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CBP, the federal pass-through that keeps PBS, NPR, and more than 1,500 local television stations afloat. Moderate Republicans Susan Collins from Maine and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska broke ranks to oppose the measure, which now heads to President Trump's desk after a follow-up House vote early Friday morning. There's more. So now, here's what happened after. Within hours, PBS president and CEO blasted the decision in an open letter. This vote goes against the will of the American people, the vast majority of whom rely and trust on PBS and our local stations. Speaking to The Guardian, they also indicated the cuts devastating and warning that smaller rural outlets could face total closure within a year. CBP President Patricia Harrison echoed the exact same alarm, saying the loss of seed money will have profound, lasting negative consequences for every single American. But do the voters agree? Let's find out. The data says no. A Pew Research Center actually done in March found only 24% of U.S. adults supported stripping federal funds from PBS and NPR, while 43% want the money to continue. The rest are unsure. Now, a fresh nationwide poll commissioned by Oregon Public Broadcasting this month shows 53% oppose eliminating CBP funding versus 44% in favor. And let me clarify, CPB funding. Voters also rated PBS, NPR far more favorably than commercial networks. Why the money matters. Let's dig in, shall we? Federal support averages about $1.60 per person per taxpayer per year. Yet it underwrites up to 30% of many rural stations. Their entire budgets rely on this. Without it, here's what executives are warning. Up to 80% NPR affiliates and dozens of PBS stations could shutter, literally close their doors. Emergency alert systems in remote regions would lose a key conduit that they need. And flagship children's shows like Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger and others that most of us grew up on watching PBS, already squeezed by streaming competition, would face deeper production cuts because of this. How do we get here? June 6th, the White House sends Congress a $9.4 billion rescission request. June 12th, the House passes H.R. 4, 214 through 212. July 17th, pre-dawn, actually the day before the rescission bill was passed, the Senate adopts an amended bill 51-48. We talked about that yesterday. July 18th, after midnight, when most of the world is asleep, guess what? The House concurs 216 to 213, sending the measure to Donald Trump's desk. Now, because rescission bills are immune to the Senate filibuster, Democrats could not block the passage outright. Presidential signature is what's next. Now, the White House signaled support. A signing ceremony could come as early as Monday. Legal challenges. Public media lawyers are exploring options under the Impoundment Control Act and First Amendment case law. State stopgaps. Legislatures in Oregon, New Jersey, and Maryland are drafting bridge funding bills for local stations right now. And the 2026 fight, House appropriations must now decide whether to restore, reduce, or eradicate CPB in the next full year budget, a battle likely to dominate fall hearings. Public broadcasting is often the only free, non-commercial media service in vast stretches of rural America. With trust in news near record lows, PBS ranks among the country's most trusted brands. Congress just voted to yank its lifeline. Wow. Even as polling shows, most voters want it preserved. For communities already labeled news deserts, the cut is more than a budget lifeline or line item. It is an existential threat to local information itself. So let's talk back, shall we? Do you rely on PBS, NPR, or your local public media station for your news, for your information, for education, for your little ones, or even for entertainment? Let us know in the comments. How do you feel about this? What do you think should be done? And what next steps should we be making as the people? We'll see you around.